Hey guys, Darren Carr here, coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to another episode of our round review series. On today's episode, we will be reviewing round 3, so let's get into it. So before I get into the games, we'll just touch base on where my team is sitting at currently. So scored the 1985 for the week, which I thought was a pretty solid score. I think it's definitely above par. I think probably par was about 1900 to 1950, somewhere around that range, because I did jump up a fair few spots, and I think some people even in the low 1900s did move up a few spots as well. So definitely a solid score there. And as you can probably see, I should be on this page. Yeah, scored round rank of just over 3,000. So that really shows you that it is in the right range, and yeah, it was quite a decent score for this week. Up to 6,000 overall now, so jumped up 13k spots this week, so it was a really solid week and definitely moving in the right direction, and is much nicer to see 4 digits than 5 digits for sure. So but yeah, let's quickly just go through a few of the highlighted players. So I'll start with my +3 and -3. So I've given my +3 to Hayden Young. I just think with all the doubt that some people had around him over the last couple of weeks, with him only scoring a 95 and a 75, where he's put that all that doubt away now that he's put a ceiling score on us, showed that he's got a lot of potential, that he can get the marks, he can get the tackles, he can have a high disposal game, and can really show us the ceiling. So, and this is actually quite a difficult matchup. Crows are a bit more of a tighter midfield, and they're not easily to score against, but it just shows you that Hayden Young probably prefers that sort of game style where it is a bit more contested and he can get more of that ball and be a bit more of a distributor rather than get more of the spread ball, which he sort of leaves to Sarong and Brayshaw or such. So yeah, it was definitely one I was super happy to see, as yeah, repaid the faith of holding him for sure. But on the downer side for my -3, I've given it to Zach Butters. A 79 was not what I wanted after all the big scores that have happened over the round. I thought 79 was pretty poor from what I would have expected. It's really hard to sort of say why he got a 79. I think he just had a poorer game, like had a high time on ground. It wasn't Melbourne, so they are a bit more of a tougher matchup. It doesn't seem like there was many marks on available. I unfortunately didn't get to watch this game because I was camping, but yeah, definitely from the stats, didn't seem like there was many marks available. And we know when the marks aren't available for him, he's not a huge tackler. So yeah, if they restrict that scoring avenue for him, he does struggle sometimes, which is a bit of a flag, but it is very unlikely that's going to occur very often. So I'm definitely going to hold him. It's just, yeah, it was quite frustrating that with all the ceiling scores, it would have been nice if he could get amongst it, but unfortunately not. Some honourable mentions of some other big scores. Obviously, Harris Easel with a 126 as my captain. Secured that pretty early. Was a nice one. Yo, 108. Absolutely amazing. Better than what I would have expected from him. It just showed that he has another level to go to, and he can really push his career high. Got amongst the marks this week, which was pleasant to see. But it's crazy to think that he's only played 66% time on ground. So he's just getting managed, which is a bit of a flag, but he's just getting the work done early on. So no concern there. He's now going to make a bit of cash. So yeah, awesome. Merritt was on track for a bit of a lower one, is for this game, but jumped up in the fourth quarter, and I think probably had closer to a 50-point quarter to get to the 110. So really happy with that. Averaging the 119, so he's been one of the picks so far this year. Bontempelli probably isn't an honorable mention for good guys, but he scored the 103. Again, really disappointing against the West Coast matchup of all things. He even kicked the 3 goals in this game, so you'd think, well, okay, he's kicked 3 goals, he's scored 150, right? No, he only had the 16 disposals, even though he had 9 tackles and 6 marks. It just shows you that he was playing a bit more forward. He did still have 13 CBAs and like 50%, I think. So no huge concern there. I think it was just sort of managing him with that ankle that he had, and plus a few inclusions of like Jack McRae. You had Sanders that was run through there as well, and a few others. So it was a game that they could just throw the magnets around a little bit. So it was good to see that he could still hit that 103 and sort of manage his scoring a little bit, but definitely needs to kick into gear pretty quickly, unfortunately. Nick Martin and Bonner absolutely killed it. Was amazing. Nick Martin just had career high disposals of 44, and I think it was a record breaking for Essendon, or it was equal. I think Zach Merritt got 44 as well, or maybe it was Parrish. That was crazy to see, and he actually really slowed down. I think he was on track for 50 quite early on. I think he nearly had 30 disposals in the first half. So it shows you that he can have one of these big games, and it was good to see that he's getting more marks now. Obviously, he's not going to be a huge tackler, but yeah, in the high time on ground is just amazing. So yeah, he's a lock for top 6 defenders in my opinion. Going on to Bonner, he scored well. I'll say he scored well because obviously 127, you can't laugh at that. That was amazing to see. But obviously there's been a few stats rolling around. I think he had 17 turnovers, which is a record for any player that has ever played. So not great, but I don't think it inflicts him too much really, because at the end of the day, it's not purely on his kicking. It can also be on what's available forward, and we know that Ben King, wasn't in this game, so that really reduces their targets up forward. So that could be a huge impact on why they had so many turnovers. And they just couldn't keep the ball down there. So I'm not too worried about him. I can't imagine he'd be dropped or he gets down to the sub. He's going to play. And yeah, they'll back him in for sure. And he's going to make a lot of cash now, 15 break even. All the rookies did really well. Actually got them right this week, leaving Sharp on the bench just for the harder matchup. I think it was against Carlton, no, it was against Adelaide, sorry. So I just thought that'd be a bit of a tougher one, so got that one right, which was good. Honourable mention to Jai Clark. Had an awesome game and has now boosted his cash generation. Had the 15 disposals, 7 tackles, which was good to see. Hopefully that gets his game going and it can be a bit more consistent with higher scores, which we all know he's capable of being such a high draft pick. Gawn and Grundy, absolutely, I was happy with. Obviously, Gawn was the second highest score of the round, behind James Worpel. Awesome, would have been an awesome captain pick. Unfortunately, I didn't go there. Grundy got the 103, really happy with that. Can't complain too much. Got there late, so it wasn't overly happy with it, but I was happy that he got the 103 at the end of the day and kept his cash slowly rising, and he should go up a little bit more this week against the West Coast Eagles before his bye. Heaney absolutely is probably the Brownlow player at this point, averaging 122. Probably has at least 10 Brownlow points in these 4 games that he's played. Maybe he drops a few in this Tigers game just because they didn't win, but absolutely he's been killing it all season, and if you didn't have him, then it's been a tough watch, I'm sure. But again, I probably wouldn't be jumping him on this week with the bye next week. Fisher was again probably disappointing. 76 really just isn't getting it done for what we sort of expected. I was sort of hoping he at least push like 85. He's just not getting there, and he looks to be like that 4th defender back there, unfortunately, behind obviously Sheeds or McKercher, and then you've got Scott, who uses the ball quite well. So it's just one of those things, unfortunately, and could be on the chopping block this week. Power was an awesome, great trade-in, 103, absolutely love that. You always like to see your trade-ins go pretty well, so happy with that one. And there's a few other underperforming guys, and James Jordan, Nat Fyfe, and Wilson. Really disappointing in these two specifically, James Jordan and Nat Fyfe. Especially James Jordan up against West Coast. You would have thought, it's against the Bulldogs. Who did they play? The Tigers, sorry. You'd think he would have scored quite well, but only scraped to the 60. and now his cash generation isn't going up quite well. Only made the 18k that last week, and probably isn't going to make too much this week unless he can put up, an 80 plus sort of thing. So hopefully he can bounce back. I'm looking at holding him this week because he does have that good matchup and trading him next week. So we'll see how we go there. But Nat Fyfe, there's really just no excuses in this game. It was a very contested game. He was obviously in the midfield quite a lot. It just wasn't getting amongst it, wasn't getting any of the tackles, which is really disappointing to see after his first game where he did have 7 tackles. So I think he's on the outer for me this week and is probably on the, it can go. Besides that, all the rookies were okay, nothing too staggering. Toby Pink was disappointing, and Howes was obviously very disappointing. Did make a bit of cash, obviously, with his negative break even, but now his break even is higher again, so he's not going to make a huge amount of more cash. Hopefully he can put up another 60 to 70 and get that cash going a little bit again, but yeah, we'll see what happens in team selections if May is back and doesn't have to be as accountable. But I think that will sort of do it for each of the players. What else I wanted to do is just go through what my captain options were this week. So obviously I did VC Sheasel. So I said in my preview video last week I was going to go VC Sheasel into Bont. So obviously Sheasel got the 126 and I just took that quite easily. So nothing to worry about there. And also my trade reviews. So I traded... It was Caulfield to Pink, and it was... who was it now? I can't remember. Give me 2 seconds. That's right. It was Sexton. Sexton to Power. So that worked out quite well, that trade, but the Toby Pink trade probably didn't do as well as I was hoping. I thought, he started his cash generation, but he's really just stopped that again with his 20, so he's definitely going to be a slow burn and sitting in my side for a little bit while longer, but not too concerned there because I don't think there's too many other rookie defenders that we need to be absolutely having at this point in time. But Blake Howes can probably go in the next couple of weeks anyway because he's maxed out on price. And the only other thing I wanted to talk about was my top 5 captains for last week being Tim English, Bontempelli, Heaney, Sheasel and Gawn. Obviously, English only had the 98, which was really disappointing, and I can't really explain why. Whether he was managed or he just was taking it easy because obviously they had the game in hand, but he should have easily gone 130 in that game. I'm not sure what the go was there. Bont obviously scraped to 103, was really disappointing in the easiest matchup. But number 3 at Heaney 127, number 4 Sheasel at 126, and Gawn at 5 at 146. Made an average of 120 of my top 5 captains, so pretty happy with that. I'll probably continue to do that throughout this series just to sort of validate my captain picks, I guess. But without further ado, let's sort of just talk about some strategy discussions for round 4. I know this isn't the preview, but I just wanted to talk about some of the discussions that we need to be thinking about with being such a short week. So the first one I really wanted to talk about was that this week is probably the last week for any fix-up trades. A lot of coaches this week are looking at upgrades, so looking at like a Sam Flanders or, getting a Jack Steele in that we've sort of missed, or, getting another defender primo. There's a lot of people a lot of coaches that are jumping on those primo guys now that, where other coaches are still fixing up, found mid prices and stuff like that. So it's something to really consider for this season, this week, that you don't really, like, say a Nat Fyfe, you probably don't want to be sideways trading him to another mid price guy. I don't think there's been too many that have put their hand up this week. So there's nothing too much to worry about. You really want to try and target for those top line guys like a Flanders. So that's my first point. Second point is that round 4 is best 22 again. So obviously we've had the last 2 weeks, we've had best 18. This week, all our players are going to be scoring for our field. So it's time to really maximize your points as much as possible. So that's playing your best rookies, obviously having as many of your primos playing as possible. So yeah, if you do have an injury or you do have someone that's on your bench that isn't playing, yeah, I'd definitely be considering moving them on so you can maximize your points this week. And this round will really show if you've been improving your side throughout the buys and not just sideways in trade as you can do in the buys because you are covered by that best 18. But yeah, I think what I've done so far has been pretty consistent to upgrade my side and make those little improvements throughout the week. So I think I'm in pretty good nick as most of the other coaches that are. I think a lot of every coach is doing quite well this season. So yeah, that's something to consider. And lastly, I just wanted to say that this is probably not the week to be banking some cash. Like I said, you want to maximize points on the field. So yeah, probably don't want to bank too much cash. I've obviously got the bye next week in Sydney, and I think it is who is it? Oh, I can't remember now. Sydney's the main one. Sydney and Collingwood. So yeah, Nick Dacos off as well, and any other Collingwood player you may have. So it's a very fantasy relevant buy that you probably don't need to bank cash for. You'd probably be looking to jump off a fair few of those guys that say like a James Jordan or even a Roberts if he does end up stopping his cash generation. I don't think you would. I don't think you'd need to start trading him out just yet. He still has plenty of cash to go. But even like a Brody Grundy can go. Could you trade a Isaac Heaney? I'm not looking to at this stage just because of how well he's going. I don't think they're going to move him out. But we will probably get to see 1 week of Taylor Adams in the side this week. Luckily enough, it is against the West Coast Eagles. So even if Heaney does go forward, he probably can kick, at least 2 or 3 goals and save his score a little bit and get that ton. So, but well, at least hopefully if we get a good look at that and we can make that decision next week. But yeah, that's all I sort of wanted to say about some strategy discussion going into this week. But yeah. Alright, well, let's get into the game reviews. So we'll start over here. We all know what we're doing at this stage. If it wants to load, come on. Don't want to look at that game no more. Not happy. Alright, we'll start off on the Thursday night game against Brisbane and Collingwood. This wasn't a super fantasy relevant game. I personally didn't have any players. I know a few people have Nick Dacos and he did okay. But we'll just go through line by line. Lachie Neale was back, probably back to, not his absolute best, but was back to a solid state where he's got a 118. Kicked the goal, had the 35 disposals, so it was good to see him back in some form after a bit of a slump from last year. So probably should be on the watch list, to be honest, if he can continue these scores. So yeah, if he can put those scores back up, he is quite cheap at the moment and could be a good pickup. Zorko also scored the 102. I think he's moved to like a half back role now that Coleman is out. I think he's moved back there a little bit just to help out. So he's getting plenty of disposals back there for not being not being a midfielder. We've shown in these last couple of games as well that he does have a lot of marks, not many tackles. So he's definitely on my watch list. I think he is probably best 6, even top 3 in the forward line. So probably one that we may have to get in later this year. Dunkley's obviously on my watch list as well, tracking really well. Just wanted to see what he's capable of with Lachie Neale back, and sort of was back to those low hundreds, which is a little bit disappointing. Obviously, we want to see him push, closer to 110, 115 if we can at his price range. But really, there's no one else too fantasy relevant in this game. Not anyone that I would be too concerned about. So moving on to Collingwood, obviously Nick Dacos just did what he went back to the half back line, which was a bit of a twist from what we sort of expected this year. Obviously meant to move into forward line, into the midfield, and that obviously hasn't worked to their favour too much. Obviously they've moved him back to half back, and who would have known they actually won? So they'll probably look to stick with that a little bit. It wasn't a super stealing game from him. He's obviously dropping cash. He's got the Finn this week, so definitely could be a tougher matchup for him in his bye. So definitely a big watch for the next couple of weeks. Probably wouldn't be jumping on him, but I also probably wouldn't be jumping off him either. Yeah, it's tough to trade your primos at the state, especially knowing the tough 3 matches he has coming up. Obviously, as I said, has the Finn tag, then he has his bye, and then he has Port Adelaide after. So definitely could be 3, at least 2 lower scores games. Obviously, bye, don't score nothing. So that's 3 weeks of poorer scores or 0. So yeah. But besides that, not anyone too fantasy relevant. Obviously, Finn McRae has been on the watch list just to see what he's capable of, which was a bit interesting, I thought, because I thought he started on field and then just got subbed like quite early on when he had the 38 time on ground. I don't think he got injured. I didn't get to watch this game, unfortunately, but yeah, it was interesting to see that. But yeah, he's definitely going to be cheap. Let's move on to the next game, I think. So obviously a huge fantasy relevant game. Any North Melbourne is a fantasy relevant game. Sheezel absolutely killed it again, as I said off the top. 32 disposals, 5 marks, 5 tackles. Can't diss it. Just went absolutely bonkers as he does, and looks like he is one of the safest picks so far this season. If you don't have him, I would be jumping on if you can. Yeah, he just looks to be going to another level this year, and doesn't look like wanting to drop below 120. Tom Power being my trade-in was awesome. Kicked the 1 goal, had the 29 disposals, 5 marks, 2 tackles. So was really positive. Played a full game as well with that 86%, so that was another positive sign. There was some concern that he maybe managed a little bit and go back to his sort of mid-70s, but it's good to see he's put 2 games together where he has higher 80s, so that's good to see. Sherry was decent again this week. Probably got beaten by, what's his name, De Koning a little bit. De Koning did have the more hit outs, so he did have, Cherry did have the more hit outs, but I think he had to work a little bit harder. Didn't get as many disposals as he would have liked. Still had a lot of 8 tackles, which was a positive. Obviously, he loves his tackles, so he's going to high floor, like I said. Did have the 5 free kicks again, so this probably would it should have been closer to a 95 if he didn't have those. But no concern there. He's making a bulk cash with only that 32 break even, so one you'd be holding on to for sure. Luke Davis-Uniacke was a bit poor this week, only the 77 after back-to-back 90s. He's going to lose a bit of cash this week now, unfortunately. Just wasn't getting amongst it. Probably didn't get as many tackles because it wasn't a super contested game. It looked like both teams are flowing pretty quickly. It was just like, a few of the big body guys were only getting the tackles, whereas he wasn't. And he doesn't get much of that outside ball, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's tend to going to happen with their game style, and was sort of the flag for me when the preseason happened and he only scored that 40. So, McKercher, obviously, can't fault it. 19 disposals, 6 marks. Going to make some bulk cash. Hold on to him. Zach Fisher, for his price tag, was probably disappointing with a 76, as I said. 20 disposals, nothing too much to worry about there. Probably could hold him. Probably, if you don't have many other things to do, then you probably can move him on to facilitate an upgrade if it gets you the cash. Wardlaw was back to his probably standard with his 70 this week after 100 last week. Under 70% time on ground, which was disappointing. Kicked the goal as well. Just, couldn't get around it as much. Had a few free kicks against with some sloppy tackles, I would say. So, nothing. I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think he's still going to make some coin. Where's his break even? 44. So, he's still making some coin. So, you probably still hold on to him as a mid-price if you had him. Lazaro scored the 55. He was on track for 70, just had a 0 point last quarter, which was a bit disappointing. I was hoping he would really boost his cash generation, but just couldn't get there in the end. So if you've moved off him, you're probably not too concerned. If you still have him, then probably still not concerned, and you're happy to see him on your bench for a little while. A few others here, just Dersma, really disappointing, the 32 after a 90 something last week. So didn't really spread as well as he did last week, and yeah, he's really probably stopped his cash generation a little bit at the moment. So could look to get off at some stage. And like I said, Toby Pink was really disappointing. Just was getting manhandled back there. Just give me 1 second. Sorry guys, I think I'm coming down with something. Got a bit of an itchy throat now. The next guy is Carlton. Not too many guys here I want to talk about. Hewitt is someone that's made my watch list just because I'm curious. He's only just over that 700k range. He's now put up 2 over 100 scores in the first month of footy. So, but I think just with the way the structure is at this point in time, I'm not looking to bring in a midfielder. I'm quite happy with the 3 rookies on field, and then I've got Nick Martin, Butters, then I've got the 2 primos. I'm not looking to jump off those guys, and I've got Bonner as well as that mid pricer. So quite happy with how the structures is at the moment. But definitely one I could look to jump on at some stage when we start upgrading these rookies in the next couple of weeks. Ollie Hollins has made the watch list as well. Just want to see another week of what his role is. Didn't have any CBA usage as far as I'm aware. Again, I didn't get to watch this game in full, but just bits and pieces. But yeah, for he's quite pricey as well. Obviously priced at the 79, so I think he's like 650 or 680, something like that. So definitely would need to see something significant and continue these scores to be worth the pick. Nick Newman had a bit of a downer score, which is disappointing to see, and probably pushes him back. Not in my considerations this week, but definitely one I'm keeping an eye on as he gets cheaper for sure. And then Zach Williams didn't really get much done. Really disappointed with a 60. I thought this game where North normally give up a few points to most positions, the only score of 60 at the end of the day was quite poor. Only had the 4 tackles, so he could also be on the chopping block this week if trains can facilitate it. So let's move on to the next game. Alrighty, so Fremantle. Hayden Young, as I said off the top, absolutely killed it. Don't need to go on here about him too much more. Sarong, just consistency is best for him. He's clear going to be, that top 1-2 midfielder, I reckon, this year. Just taking his game to another level again, which it sucks I missed out on. But yeah, if you had started him, then that's great. And if you've jumped on, yeah, congratulations to you. He's just gone to another level, and he should continue that. No worries at all. So Luke Ryan is probably another one to touch on. He just gets it done every single week. Definitely top 6 defender at this point in time. Just always seems to find a way to get sort of double digits marks, which is just incredible when you think about, not many other defenders have been able to do that, and gets, for being like a key defender, he gets high disposals. So it's just such a unique position. It's something that we probably overlook a lot because we think, he's going to be locked down at some stage, but he just has such high time on ground, and just everyone passes to him, so no worries there. Jordan Clark is sort of his second fiddle. If goes to Ryan, then it sort of follows with Jordan Clark straight after. One thing I wanted to mention about Jordan Clark this week was that I think he had like a 7-point first quarter. So to get to a 97 was a great recovery by him, just to be able to get 30 points each quarter. Shows you that definitely has a ceiling score probably coming up, and can definitely probably put up a 120 at some stage. Luke Jackson, probably a bit of a downer score this week for what coaches would have expected, especially against an easier matchup in O'Brien. But an 88 doesn't hurt you. Still would have been your best 18. So nothing too much to worry about there. He's still going to make a bit of cash. So nothing too much to worry about there at all. And just a few others in Sharp. Scored the 63. Still going up in cash. No worries there. He's, like I said, he's just a very safe sort of 60 to 70. So it's definitely one that we can keep on our bench or even field if he has a good matchup some stage. And at 21 disposals for a 61 is just very disappointing. His break even now is just pretty much close to where he's averaging. So definitely on the one, probably the number one person I'd be moving on at this stage, but I'll get into that when we do our trade video. No one else really to talk about there. Draper scored a 49 probably. Is maybe a guy you could jump on if you think he's going to be staying in that side. Personally, I don't have a defender trade, but yeah, definitely one I could support jumping on, because I think he's only like 250. If you have, say, a Caulfield or even a Reed, and you're just moving them on because you have nothing better to do, could definitely start growing some cash there. Adelaide's not too fantasy relevant. Just got Dawson, who I think is probably one of the trade targets that I want to get in the next couple of weeks. I think round 6 is when they start to go on a bit of a good run. We've got Essendon, North. It does have Port Adelaide, but then has Lions, Pies, West Coast, West Coast, then Hawthorn, Tigers, and before they buy. So definitely could go big, and is definitely my trade targets at some stage. I don't want to pronounce his name wrong. I'll just say Kane. Hopefully that's right. So he's an interesting one because he has sort of gone back-to-back high scores, I think. I think he had quite a high amount of marks last week as well. So is it their game style? It seems like they were quite high mark range. You see a lot of their defenders are up there this week. So maybe it was just a good matchup for defenders. So probably one I wouldn't be jumping on here is a key defender. So yeah, probably avoiding at this stage as well. And finally, just Matt Crouch. Did enough to continue his price range. Didn't put up a ceiling score like we've seen in the past few weeks. So didn't hurt the owners that don't have him, and probably didn't hurt the owners that do have him now. So, and if you traded him in, you'd probably be happy with the 96 at the end of the day. So let's move on. Alrighty, so Essendon and St Kilda. Only a couple of guys I want to talk about here. Nick Martin, we already spoke about. Absolutely killed it. And Zach Merritt was looking like a poorer game, but then, as Zach Merritt does, he lifts in the fourth quarter and gets his team across the line at the end of the day. So that was good to see. Not really too many other to mention. Maybe a Parrish did score the 104. Keep an eye on him, I would say. We know what he's capable of, and if he gets cheap enough, then he could be one to jump on. Yeah, no one else I'm too concerned about there. On St Kilda, we spoke about Bonner a little bit. 127, happy with that. Be an interesting watch at the team selection. He should still be there. I can't imagine why he wouldn't be. Steele is definitely one I missed out on this preseason. I wish I picked him, but I didn't. And I'm hoping to jump on him at some stage early on, as he's still cheap currently for what he's going at that one. I think he's close to averaging 115 at this point in time, 2 120s and a lower ton. So yeah, it just seems to be getting it done all over the field. He's been getting plenty of marks and obviously gets plenty of tackles, as we know. So high disposals just lead to big games. So jump on him if you can. 1 second. Marshall's on my watch list. Really looking to jump on him pretty quickly. He is dropping in cash this week, so yeah, next couple of weeks he will be pretty cheap and below $1 million, hopefully. No one else really here besides Wangani Malera was a popular trade-in. I think he was like 4th or 5th this week. So to put up a 71 was really disappointing. Not too much of a concern, I don't think. I think he kind of got a bit of attention on him just because they opponents know how damaging he can be by foot. So that's why a lot of the ball sort of went through Bonner and he sort of popped off a little bit. Which is interesting to think, because obviously you'd think Sinclair is probably their number one tag target, but it was interesting to see that they went to sort of Wangani Malera over him. So just something to flag if you do own him. I probably wouldn't be trading him out. Just give it a couple more weeks. If it continues to be a trend, then maybe it's something you can move on from. Windhager probably should be on my watch list, but he did get suspension this week. Obviously, we've been told that he's got this midfield role for a little while Brad Crouch is out for, I think, 2 months. Only put up the 60 this week with an 81 time on ground, which is a little bit disappointing. Just wasn't getting amongst it with the marks, and only had 18 disposals. So, in what was probably an easier matchup, so not someone I'm looking to bring in, even if he was not suspended. So, I'll definitely give it another week for sure. And finally, just Windsor was a really poor game. I fielded him thinking, okay, this is an easy matchup for sort of those forward guys, and yeah, to see a 35 was really disappointing. Just even the bits and pieces of this game, I just couldn't find him. Yeah, was really disappointing. And probably one that we can probably look at trading out, if not this week, then a couple of weeks time. Moving on to Port Adelaide and Melbourne. So this game was very restrictive, as you can see. Not too many people scored over 100, only 4 players. So we got Rosie, only scored the 99. As an owner, you'd probably be really happy with that, considering how low scoring this was. Obviously, Melbourne are tougher matchups for midfielders. Wines, 88, again, you're probably happy with that. Got above his break even and made a bit of coin. It has now come out, though, that he has done a hamstring, so I think, unfortunately, he is a trade out. You have to trade him out this week. He's going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks with a hamstring, unfortunately. So, one to put in your plans. Butters, I said off the top, game high disposals in 26 for Melbourne, for Port, but yeah, just wasn't getting amongst it in any other way. So disappointing. Hopefully he bounces back next week. No one else really too concerning there. On to Melbourne. Gawn absolutely killed it in what was a easier matchup against Soldo. I think there was a good stat that Calvin came up with that last year when Soldo and Gawn played off against each other last year, I think he scored like a 130. So it was a really good bit of research that I probably should have looked into a bit more. Definitely would have been higher up in my captain's sections if I had done that. I was just thinking, Port being a restrictive matchup, I didn't think he'd get anywhere near 20 disposal. I think he'd have a lower disposal game, but yeah, I unfortunately didn't get to watch this game as well, but I would say he's more likely just taken it out of the ruck and smacked it forward. But it was good to see that he's got the tackles and the marks as well, and 50 hit-outs obviously helps his bottom line, so I think he would have got closer. He pretty much would have cracked the ton even if he didn't have the 50 disposals, which is crazy to think, and is definitely pushing towards that number 1 ruck spot at this point in time. Oliver is just on the watch list. He's dropping in cash quite quickly, and someone we probably want to jump on at some stage when he is fully fit. Yeah, I don't think he's fully fit at this point in time, so just keep an eye on him. Petrarca had a lower score this week with an 83. Just didn't get the goals which you're used to seeing from him. Salem 52. I think it's time coaches just jump off now, which is really disappointing because obviously he moved back into the midfield this week and had that midfield role. I think had closer to 50. But the score just wasn't there for them. Obviously, Port are very restrictive, but you can't be paying up for these guys that are 700-800k and putting up 50s. That's just not on, and you'd be absolutely fuming. So jump off on him. He's still got some coin on his head, so you can probably switch him to Wangali Miller or even a Jordan Clark, who's also around that position as well. So. Yeah, Windsor scored the 38, so probably one you can probably jump off even this week, or when he comes to his bye in round 6. His cash generation is pretty much done now, I think. Billings really disappointing. 30 points is not what you signed up for. Am I in the right? I am. Yeah. Only scored the 30 points, which is ridiculous. It somehow lost cash after he went 140 only 2 weeks ago. So I'd be jumping off there. I just don't know what they're doing with him. Subbed him out, which is really unusual. And then Howes, super disappointing after going back to back sort of 70s, if not 80s. To only score the 23 really stopped his cash generation, which is quite frustrating for owners, but probably not too much concern. I think May will be back this week, so he should probably jump back up to at least a 60. And another one I should have mentioned here was Marty Hoare. Did score the 50, but it has come out as well that he is now out for the next 3 weeks with a thumb injury. So one you could probably just leave sitting on your bench if you do have him. We'll be back in due time. The next game is the blowout game of the round, Bulldogs versus West Coast. Not too many fantasy relevant people here. Obviously, Bontempelli, we spoke about him. I want to talk about JJ a little bit. He has been averaging over 99 so far this season. So, someone that probably could be on the watch list if he continues. Obviously, he's probably one of the main distributors back there for Western Bulldogs, and we know how much they love to possess the ball. So, he's definitely going to probably continue to have low 20 disposals and high marks. So I think he's a good shout if you're brave enough and if he's the only one you can get up to. But I think there's probably others around his price range. English, I don't know what happened, but yeah, he's dropping in cash too. 135 break even, 80 and 98 is definitely not going to help him. Even kicked the 2 goals in this game, so super disappointing. I just don't think it was super contested. Obviously, only 24 hitouts and 25 hitouts, so wasn't too many ruck contests for him to sort of get those 30 to 40 hitouts. And then even though he had 17 disposals, he didn't get any marks or tackles. So really disappointing there. Should have gone 130 for owners easily. Gallagher, if you own him as a rookie, absolutely killed it with a 90. He's rocketed in price, and probably last week to jump on him this week. Don't probably expect 90s each week. Obviously, it was only against West Coast. Did kick 2 goals, but yeah, did well to spread and get 7 marks. And Sanders just trucking along, scored another 85, so really happy with that. Gets it done across the board with 4 tackles, 4 marks and 6 tackles, so really happy with that. Only other one I probably should have put on the watch list is Jack McRae. See what his role is. We know how much of a ball magnet he can be, but he's just dropping in cash at the moment. So definitely one that we could jump on at some stage if he's given the keys back in that midfield, or at least has a secure spot and can find some scoring potential. On to West Coast. Only a couple here. Yo absolutely killed it. 29 disposals, 4 marks, 5 tackles. Had the 2 shots at goal. Probably could have even been bigger if he got a bit more accurate. And like I said off the top, just if only his time on ground was higher, like closer to an 80. This guy could be pushing closer to, a 120 in these games, in these ceiling games. So a little bit disappointing there, but they've got to manage him because obviously he has been so injury prone. But I'm just glad to see that he is fit and healthy and scoring quite well. No one else too relevant, obviously. Just Harley Reid scored a 43, bit disappointing. When you consider how easily the Bulldogs usually give up to sort of those halfback guys, but he is sort of that midfield guy at the moment, and even goes forward a little bit. So one you could probably look at jumping off because I think most of his cash generation is done, to be honest. Couple more games here, and then I'll do a bit of a preview for what my trades are going to be. So quickly through Tigers. Taranto was back to his best with 132. We obviously would have expected this with Hopper and Prestier out. Obviously, that's only for 4 weeks. So if you've jumped on him for the next 4 weeks, then he's definitely going to put up some good scores for you. Unfortunately, not everyone can do that. And his price isn't going to go down anymore. He pretty much hit his break even, so that's good. Blostone had his best game of his life and scored a 122. Looks really good back there. He's definitely the main guy for them. Probably just a bit pricey for me in classic mode. Definitely in draft, if you want to pick him up, then good. Similar with Baker. Baker's obviously got the suspension this week, which is a bit disappointing. Copped a 1 week suspension for, I think, a late hit in a marking contest. I think he's around that 680 mark, and I think he has a low break even after putting up some back-to-back tons. So probably would have been in consideration for a trade-in target if he didn't get suspended. But unfortunately does have that round 6 bye as well. So would have been a tricky one, but at least the suspensions probably saved us a decision there. Jaden Short, absolutely going really poor, dropping in cash like a rocket at this point in time. So he's on my watch list because we know what he can do, and if he can turn it around, then he's going to be quite cheap and someone we can jump on. And finally, just Campbell did quite well in this game. He looked really good. Didn't kick any goals, so obviously only had the 54, but he's just keeping his cash generation really ticking along, and looks like he's cemented in that best 22 or best 23 for the Tigers at the point in time. Moving on to Sydney, a bit more fantasy friendly. Obviously, Heaney kicked 2 goals again. I think he's averaging like 2 goals a game, which is just ridiculous for like a pure midfielder. He just has such an agile role where he can sneak forward and kick a goal at some stages. Less than 80% time on ground, so not too much for worry there. Grundy, like I said, pretty happy with 103. Kicked his cash generation off a little bit again. Only the 21 hitouts, which was a little bit disappointing, so it wasn't a huge ruck contest game, whereas you probably usually see at least 30 from each ruck, so they probably could have done a little bit better there. But definitely, I'm still not super happy with Grundy, just with the way he gets it done. Obviously got there late. I think he was on 60 at 3/4 time, so he did jump up in that last quarter with 4 marks, but yeah, he just doesn't look like the Grundy of old, so looking to jump off at some stage. Roberts, no need to comment there. Errol Gordon, obviously on the watch list, he's dropping a bunch of cash and we're going to jump on because we know what he can do. Just needs to find a bit of form, just not getting as many marks. Like we usually see him up in the mark tally, but it looks like it's sort of just gone through the guts as such. Just looking at these marks, he's one of the lowest, only the 1 mark, which is crazy to think, and no tackles. So maybe is it a bit of a role change? A few of the inclusions like a Jordan and the others that have that they influenced on what he's gonna do. We'll have to wait and see, and when they're back to full fitness, if he does jump up. And finally, James Jordan, a 60, pretty disappointing. Did make some coin, but yeah, just it wasn't what we sort of expected with a bit of an easier matchup against the Tigers. But hopefully we can bounce it back this week against the Eagles. On to the final game. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get through this as quick as possible. Whopple had the game of his life. I'm pretty confident saying that is his career high for disposals and career high for fantasy. Kicked the 1 goal one. Unfortunately, I don't think he is an option for Classic. He obviously had a breakout last year. I just think Hawthorn are going quite poorly, that he's just carrying the load. Obviously, Newcomb's not doing much in there, and Nash isn't doing anything either, so he's just carrying the load. And obviously, Will Day's coming back at some stage, and you'd expect Hawthorn to really jump into gear pretty shortly. Not too many other fantasy relevant. Obviously, Newcomb probably saved it late. He was looking on track for a real stinker close to his 60s, but jumped up to a 79 late. Did lose a lot of cash for his owners, and if he can, I'd definitely be jumping off. I think he's lost close to 100k already, which is can kill a season, but if you're holding him, then you hope it turns around. Mackenzie's on the watch list because he has probably started his cash generation a little bit. I had the 41 break even last week and has gone back to back 70s, even though he's on that sort of wing half forward, I think. Even floats back a little bit, so he is getting it done. Kicked 2 goals, which was good to see. Probably one I'm not looking at bringing in this week, just with the way my trades line up. Kyle Amon was on track for a monster, honestly. I think he was on like 62 at half time, but somehow only managed to 74 in the full time, which is just really odd how he only scored 12 points in a half. So that would be really disappointing for owners. Had a low time on ground too, 68. I don't know what happened there, whether he just got caught off the ball or I'm not sure. Even though I watched this game, I didn't really notice it too much. And finally, Dan Rosio was a bit disappointing with a 60, but he was playing a bit more of a lockdown role on a Tyson Stengel. You would have seen in the game where, Stengel probably when Stengel went deep, Dan Rosio went with him just to keep up with that bit of pace. So that was a little bit disappointing, but to still get it to a 60 and keep his cash generation going was a bit of a positive at the end of the day. So not too fussed there, and one I'm still not jumping off just yet. On to the final team in Geelong. Stewart had a game again, 110. Just seems to be around that mark, even though he's had high marks, and he's had two really friendly matchups in the last 2 weeks where he's been able to intercept a lot. Really happy if you're an owner. He's around that mark of top 6 at this point in time. Dempsey was the rookie to grab a couple of weeks ago and even last week. Absolutely killed it this game, 102. Just seems to have a really good role where he floats up and down that wing. Sort of like he gets back and defends as an escape kick out, but also floats really high as a half forward to sneak up and get a goal if he can. Probably could have even had a higher ceiling score if he kicked a goal in this game, which he probably should have. But yeah, for all the owners that own him, that is what you want to see, and is definitely one of the best rookie picks that we've got so far. And it's probably one of the fieldable options, honestly. I think we scored a 91 and then a 52 and then a 102. So yeah, definitely one of the better options to field, especially in the forward line. I'm just doing my watch list. Scored a 94. Just I don't know. He's toying with me. I would love to pick him, but again, he's a midfielder. I'm not looking to bring in a midfielder. Just probably isn't getting the job done enough. He's slowly rising in cash. 74 break even. So, but just he's got a good couple of matchups coming as well. But yeah, just not looking to jump on at this stage. Was a good pickup if you started with him. Just been a slow bit of a burn. So, would be happy with that, scoring in the mid 90s. And finally, I just had Jai Clark, obviously 76. Hopefully he can continue that. He's really started his cash generation now. 15 disposals and 7 tackles. Good to see him have quite a high time on ground for him. 70%, which is a bit better than what we've seen in the past with his 50s and 60s. Probably the only one to mention was that Conway played a full game as sort of that R3 option if you wanted to go down there. It's a bit of a tricky price, given I think he's bought let's actually look at this, considering, where am I? I think he's really that 400k. Conway. Oh, he's down at 338. I just don't think we can go there just yet. Obviously, does have an easy matchup this week, but if you really had nothing better to do and you want to have a bit of a point of difference that's going to make a bit of coin, then that's probably a way you could go, for sure. But I think that will sort of do it for all the games this week. There's a few people popped their heads up, but nothing too significant. But let's just do a little bit of a quick preview of what I'm thinking for my trades in this week. So obviously I've thrown Whitfield back on after holding him last week. Howe's on the bench. I do not want to field him. And if you are having him on field, I'd be quite concerned. Obviously he could put up a 23 again this week, and that could be a real killer for your season for sure. So besides that, we're structuring pretty very similar to what we have in the last couple of weeks. Nothing too much to concern. But moving on to my trades that I've sort of just brainstormed. It's only Tuesday night, so I've only had about a day to think about it. But there are a few different options. So a couple options are I'm looking at moving on a Nat Fife and a Zach Williams. So moving on 2 mid prices that aren't sort of meeting the expectations. Zach Williams probably could give him another week. He probably will go up another maybe 20 or 30k with his scoring of 60. He's got a break even of 44, so I'm not too concerned there. Does have Fremantle, who I believe are a bit of a tougher matchup for defenders. Depending if the ball's down there, right? We'll have to wait and see. So definitely looking at moving him on if he can facilitate. The reason I've probably gone with him specifically in this option one, I've got 3 options here, so I'll show you 3 options. Yeah, I got Blake Howes as an emergency. Obviously, he plays the Thursday night. So if Blake Howes, puts up a 60 plus on the Thursday night, then I'll possibly consider trading out a Zach Williams and going to, a red dot rookie if I can, to really use that cash and then bring in a top line guy in the midfield and in the forward line. Yeah, it's probably not the best option, but it's just something I was considering because I'm wanting to move off a couple of these mid prices that aren't really getting to my expectation. But I was going to sort of how does this? Flanders and then just a rookie down the bottom. So that was option one. Option two was a bit of a rookie fix-up. I didn't super love it, but I'm not really too fussed about with all my players. Like, obviously everyone's sort of making cash. There's a lot of green happening. Only a couple reds here where, I'm not really looking to trade out these guys at all. Obviously Merritt, Bont not trading out. Butters maybe not quite as, top of the line as the other two, but I still think he's a bit of value and can go up in cash. Just had a poorer week. Yeah, everyone else is going up in cash. I'm not looking to move on anyone else too much. So I was more just moving on a rookie that has really not got much more upside in him, in a Harley Reid and a Zaro, and really just going to sort of a Gallagher and a Thompson. Really just getting the next two big rookies that are going up in cash. Obviously have -22 break even and I think a -19 break even. So they're both going to make a bunch of cash this week. Banks me 188k a little bit this week. It's probably off the top. It's not my favorite decision. Obviously, I said that I want to maximize the amount of points on field, and I don't really feel like this doesn't improve anything. Obviously, it's just fixing up a couple of rookies. I am concerned about this F6 spot. Ideally, I want to increase that, so getting a better player there, but I think I might. I don't think I can facilitate a trade like that at this point in time. So that's option 2, and then option 3, which is probably my favorite so far, is going. Where are you? A Fisher, who has been quite disappointing for what he is, and a Fife, who's probably at his peak now, and going to a Oliver Dempsey as a rookie pickup. And he's going to be a fieldable option for me this week against the Bulldogs. I think he's going to score quite well again. Obviously, they give up points to Wingman, and he's playing that role there. So I think he's a good fieldable option this week. And this is where I get sort of stuck a little bit because I would have loved to pick up a Flanders, but I've missed out by 6k, which is a little bit annoying. If I had 6k, then this would be absolutely the best way I'd go. Not even thinking about it too much because both of these guys are going to make some coin. But bit of an unusual one. I think I'm just going to have to go a Dan Zorko. Not super happy about it. Obviously, we know how injury prone he is, but he has been traveling really well. Has gone, around that 100 mark the last 3 weeks. He has gone back to the halfback and has shown a marking game and can tackle as well. So it's just his age, 35. How long can that body hold up for? He does have North Melbourne this week, and I think he actually does have a pretty good run coming up. I actually got it here. Let's go to general defenders. That's to say he's a general defender. And the Lions. So he's got North and then Melbourne, then just have a couple tougher games, but then he's got Gold Coast, Adelaide, Richmond, Hawthorn before his bye, then even Bulldogs again after the bye. Do I expect him to probably survive all these games? Probably not. Probably unrealistic for a 35-year-old. But it's the only thing I can facilitate at this point in time, and probably the way I'm looking at going. There's not many two other options that I'd be looking at. Not looking at bringing in Jackson, nor Mackay, even though he has been going quite well. Yeah, there's really no one else there. Like I said, I may have gone a Baker if he wasn't suspended. I haven't heard if he's challenging it, but I think it's probably too late at this point. Probably would have saved a bit of coin there, but that's where I'm sort of sitting at the moment. So I'll just make these trades just to sort of show what my team may look like. in the day. Make a few shuffles. Yeah, so that's sort of how I'm thinking I'm going to line up for this week. But that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Give me a like and subscribe if you want to see some more. And I'll talk to you tomorrow for the trade-in targets. Have a good one. Bye.